You'd walk in past stained glass windows and dark wood paneling, straight into a bar buzzing with a happy hour crowd, waiters in suspenders and bow ties moving between booths with baskets of potato skins. For a couple of decades, that was Bennigan's, America's version of an Irish pub dropped into strip malls from coast to coast. At its peak, Bennigan's had grown to more than 300 locations, according to company history, making it one of the biggest casual dining chains in the country. And then, on a single day in July 2008, the company shut down every one of its 150 corporate-owned restaurants, overnight. Not a slow wind-down, not a few locations quietly closing each quarter. Employees showed up to locked doors. Diners who'd eaten there the night before came back to find the restaurant just gone. That's an almost unheard-of way for a chain this size to disappear. Most restaurant chains fade, a location here, a franchise agreement there, spread out over years, so gradually you barely notice until someone brings it up. Bennigan's didn't fade. It vanished in a single afternoon, right in the middle of the worst economic collapse in decades. So what actually happened? It starts more than 30 years earlier with a legendary Dallas restaurateur who basically invented the modern casual dining category, and a chain that grew fast enough and confidently enough that almost nobody saw the ending coming until the locks were already changed. Bennigan's opened its first location in Atlanta in 1976, the creation of restaurateur Norman Brinker, a name that doesn't get nearly the recognition it deserves. Brinker is often credited as one of the true pioneers of American casual dining, the category that sits between fast food and formal restaurants, and he built Bennigan's around a specific idea, an Irish pub theme, but Americanized and family-friendly enough to work in a suburban strip mall. The formula worked. Stained glass windows, dark wood interiors, a lively bar area up front designed to feel like you'd wandered into Dublin, combined with a menu of hearty, approachable American food. The signature dish became the Monte Cristo, a sandwich stacked with ham, turkey, and cheese, battered, deep-fried, and dusted with powdered sugar, served with raspberry preserves for dipping. It sounds almost absurd described out loud, and that was sort of the point. It was indulgent, memorable, the kind of dish people specifically drove to Bennigan's to order. Ownership shifted over the years. Bennigan's was run for a time under the restaurant division of Pillsbury, and after Pillsbury was acquired by Grand Metropolitan in 1989, a legal wrinkle involving liquor licensing laws forced a sale. Bennigan's ended up under a company called Metro Media. Through the 80s and into the 90s, the chain kept expanding, eventually growing past 300 locations at its height, roughly matching pace with rivals like Chili's and Ruby Tuesday in the increasingly crowded casual dining space. But underneath the happy hour crowds and the Monte Cristo sandwiches, the brand had quietly stopped evolving, and that stagnation would matter a lot more once the economy turned against it. By the early 2000s, Bennigan's had a problem that's almost harder to fix than a bad location or a bad menu item. It had become forgettable. Restaurant industry observers pointed out that a lot of its food overlapped heavily with competitors like Chili's and Ruby Tuesday, but Bennigan's wasn't winning on quality or reviews, it was just sort of there, coasting on a theme it had stopped updating since the 80s. Restaurant consultant Bill Marvin put it bluntly to Newsweek in 2008 in the aftermath of the collapse, saying that what the hospitality business had lost was hospitality itself, the sense that a restaurant chain like Bennigan's had become just one more place to eat, indistinguishable from a dozen others. The numbers back that up. By 2011, the company's annual sales had fallen by more than $500 million compared to its peak year back in 2001, a staggering drop for a chain that hadn't lost a single major public controversy, just steadily lost relevance one dinner reservation at a time. In May 2006, 2 years before the collapse, Bennigan's had already quietly closed every location in New York and Connecticut, an early signal that the brand's core markets were shrinking. Then came the recession. By mid-2008, casual dining was getting hit from two directions at once, customers pulling back on discretionary spending exactly as gas and grocery prices spiked, while faster, cheaper, more modern fast casual chains kept siphoning off the younger crowd Bennigan's needed to stay relevant. Bennigan's parent company at the time, Metro Media Restaurant Group, was carrying its sister chain Steak and Ale through the same downturn, and neither business had the financial cushion to absorb the shock. On July 29, 2008, the company filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, not the kind that lets a business reorganize and keep operating, but the kind that means liquidation. There was no restructuring plan, no attempt to keep the doors open while creditors got sorted out. The moment the filing went through, all 150 corporate-owned Bennigan's restaurants in the U.S. closed immediately, along with every remaining Steak and Ale location. Employees who'd worked their shift the night before arrived to find locked doors and no warning. For the roughly 138 Bennigans that were individually franchised rather than corporately owned, the doors stayed open for a while. But without the marketing muscle, supply chains, and brand support the corporate parent used to provide, those franchise locations closed one by one over the next several years. By December 2012, only around 33 Bennigans remained in the entire country. Overseas, a cluster of more than 30 locations in South Korea actually kept running years longer, not closing until January 2016, a strange footnote where the American pub outlasted itself farthest from home. In October 2008, just months after the collapse, an investment firm called Atalia Capital Management bought the Bennigans and franchising rights out of bankruptcy, hoping to rebuild it as a leaner, franchise-only operation. Progress was slow. It wasn't until 2015 that real momentum returned, when Paul and Gwen Mangliamelli, he'd been brought in years earlier to run the turnaround, bought Bennigan's and Steak and Ale outright and formed a new company, Legendary Restaurant Brands. Since then, new Bennigan's locations have slowly reopened in small markets across the country, a modest but real second life for a brand that once vanished in a single afternoon. It's a strange kind of collapse to look back on. Bennigan's didn't lose to one scandal, one bad decision, or one competitor. It lost to years of quietly becoming interchangeable with everywhere else, and then ran out of runway at the exact moment the economy stopped forgiving businesses that were just okay. Subscribe for more vanished chains. We're working through the ones that used to be on every corner. Next time, we're heading to Circuit City, the electronics giant that filed for bankruptcy the same brutal year and made a decision about its own employees that a lot of people still haven't forgotten. Did you ever order the Monte Cristo at Bennigan's or catch Last Call at the bar? Tell me your memory in the comments. Most restaurants fade slowly. This one closed its doors in a single afternoon, and almost nobody saw it coming.